The etiology of the growth-restricted fetus is multifactorial. Over 30% of stillbirth suboptimal growth is a contributing factor. The most important or the placental dysfunction is the likely cause for the fetal growth restriction. Small or gestational age fetuses are at increased risk of prematurity, and the prematurity itself carries gestation-dependent risk. The long-term consequences are the neurodevelopmental delay, cardiovascular and metabolic changes. Some but not all growth-restricted fetuses are small for gestational age. Around 50 to 70% of small for gestational age fetuses are constitutionally small with fetal growth appropriate for maternal size and ethnicity. The likelihood of fetal growth restriction is higher in severe small for gestational age infants. And the severe small for gestation infants are those who falls below third centile. Small for gestational age fetuses and the intrauterine fetal growth restricted fetuses. These are not interchangeable terms, and they are not synonyms. Gestation fetuses are those whose estimated fetal weight or abdominal measures length and diameter. The serious gestation are those whose estimated fetal weight or abdominal circumference falls below third centile. It simply describes the fetus at the lower end of the normal range. The fetal abdominal circumference or the estimated fetal weight can be fetus with growth restricted fetuses. IUGR is not synonymous with the small for gestational age fetuses. It denotes a pathological process in which the fetus does not attain its biologically determined growth potential. In the case of a small for gestation, no pathology is involved. It's just the weight of the baby which falls below the percentile of that population. The serial growth measurements will identify the fetuses with growth restrictions. Reduction in abdominal circumference or estimated fetal weight velocity when measured at least 3 weeks apart, then we will declare that this fetus is facing the growth restriction. The etiology of the growth restricted babies, your fetuses. 1/3 is determined by the genetic factors and 2/3 are environmental factors. The most common cause of growth restricted fetuses, 80 to 90%, is placental insufficiency. The abnormal invasion of the fetal trophoblastic cells and vascular remodeling is the hypothesized causative and is associated with smaller placenta and reduced nutrient exchange. Abnormal uterine umbilical artery perfusion on both sides of the placenta and disproportional or reduced placental perfusion resulting in inefficient oxygen and inefficient nutrients for the maternal-fetal exchange. There are many risk factors responsible for growth-restricted fetuses. Certain medical conditions like diabetes, vascular diseases like diabetes with vascular disease, hypertension, renal disease, antiphospholipid syndrome, systemic lupus, both are autoimmune disorders, cyanotic congenital heart disease, and the non-modifiable risk factors like ethnicity, Indian, Asian, African origin, nulliparity, maternal, small for gestational age fetuses, age more than 35 years, low maternal pre-pregnancy weight, short or long interval pregnancy interval, short less than 6 months or long interval more than 60 months. Alcohol intake or the use of cocaine, cigarette smoking. If caffeine consumption exceeds more than 300 milligrams per day, it may be a risk factor. The genetic causes which are responsible for 5 to 20% of cases, triploidy, trisomy, inborn error of metabolism, rubella, torch infections, rubella, cytomegalovirus, HIV, toxoplasmosis, malaria, varicella zoster, multiple pregnancy, especially in the monochorionic twins. All these factors again divided into major risk factors and the minor risk factors, because certain major risk factors, just one major risk factor is responsible for growth retardation of the fetus, or minor factors, more than 3 minor risk factors may be responsible for the growth restricted fetus. Major risk factors are the maternal age more than 40, if the patient is a smoker and consumes 11 cigarettes per day, Maternal is small for gestational age, cocaine, daily vigorous exercises, maternal, your previous is small for gestational age babies, previous is stillbirths, chronic hypertension, diabetes with vascular disease, renal impairment, antiphospholipid syndrome, heavy bleeding similar to menses in early gestational ages, and the PEP-A, the pregnancy associated plasma protein, which is used to diagnose the Down syndrome. If it is early, its value is 0.04, less than 0.04, it may also be a risk factor of prediction for the future small for gestational age or for the small for gestation age baby in that pregnancy. The minor risk factors are the maternal age, more than 35, IVF, singleton pregnancy, nulliparity, BMI less than 20, BMI 25 or 34.9, any more than the range. Smokers consumes 10 cigarettes per day, low fruit intake, previous history of preeclampsia and pregnancy intervals, less than 6 months and more than 60 months. Screening, how to screen these patients. All women should be assessed at looking for risk factors to identify those who require increased surveillance. Women who have major risk factors should be referred for serial ultrasound measurements of fetal size and assessment of fetal well-being with umbilical or T-Doppler from 26 to 28 weeks of pregnancy, who have major risk factors. And we already discussed the major and the minor risk factors. They should have Doppler assessment from 26 to 28 weeks. Women who have 3 or more minor risk factors should be referred for uterine Doppler from 20 to 24 weeks of gestation. In women with abnormal uterine artery Doppler at 20-24 weeks gestation, the subsequent normalization of Doppler is still associated with increased risk of small for gestational age or growth restricted fetuses. Women with an abnormal uterine artery Doppler at 20-24 weeks gestation, defined as the pulsatility index more than 95 centile or the notching, should be referred for serial ultrasound. If the resistance increase, pulsatility index will be increased and there will be a notching between the systolic and the diastolic. It will be shown in graph in the next slides. Should be referred for serial ultrasound measurement for fetal site and assessment of fetal well-being with umbilical artery Doppler commencing from 26 to 28 weeks of gestation. Women who have a normal uterine artery Doppler do not require serial measurement of fetal site and serial assessment of fetal well-being with umbilical artery Doppler unless they develop specific pregnancy complications like pregnancy-induced hypertension, antepartum hemorrhage, longer pregnancy interval more than 16 months. However, they should be referred as scan for. Women with normal uterine artery Doppler do not require serial measurement of fetal site and serial assessment of fetal well-being with umbilical artery Doppler unless they develop specific pregnancy complications like pregnancy-induced hypertension, diabetes, antepartum hemorrhage. However, they should be offered a scan for fetal size and umbilical artery Doppler during the 3rd trimester. Serial measurement of symphysiofundal height is recommended at each antenatal appointment for 24 weeks of pregnancy, as this improves prediction of SGA neonate. But the measurement of the symphysiofundal height is not a reliable method, but it is recommended, but it's not a reliable method as a Doppler ultrasound. Symphysiofundal height should be plotted on a customized chart rather than a population-based chart, as this may improve prediction of the SGA neonate. Women with a single symphysiofundal height which plots below the 10th centile or serial measurements which demonstrate slow or static growth by crossing centiles should be referred for ultrasound measurement of fetal size. Because in some patients who are small for gestational age, They may fall below the 10th centile, third centile, and may come across and come with growth retardation. Women in whom measurements of physiofundal height is inaccurate, for example, BMI more than 35, the patient having large fibroids, polyhydramnios, should be referred for CL assessment of fetal size using ultrasound. What is the optimum method of diagnosing a small for gestational fetal or fetal growth restrictions? Fetal abdominal circumference or estimated fetal weight? Pulse below 10 centile can be used to diagnose small for gestational age features or growth restricted fetus. Change in abdominal circumference or estimated fetal weight may improve the prediction of wasting at birth. Neonatal morphometric indicators like femur length, BPD length, and adverse perinatal outcomes suggestive of FGR. When using two measurements of the abdominal circumference or estimated fetal weight to estimate growth velocity, they should be at least 3 weeks apart to minimize false positive rates for diagnosing growth retarded fetuses. Earlier than 2 weeks, there is no advantage in doing the ultrasound in less than 2 weeks, earlier than 2 weeks. Biophysical tests, including amniotic fluid volume, cardiotogography, and biophysical scoring, are poor at diagnosing a small or growth-restricted fetuses. Investigations that are indicated in small for gestational age fetuses. Hofer-Laffer for a detailed fetal anatomical survey and uterine artery Doppler by the fetal medicine specialist if CV or small for gestational age is identified at the 18 to 20 weeks scan. Karyotyping should be offered in severely small for gestational age or growth restricted fetuses with structural anomalies and in those detected before 23 weeks of gestation, especially if the uterine artery Doppler is normal. Serological screening for congenital cytomegalovirus and toxoplasmosis infection should be offered only in severely growth restricted fetuses. Testing for syphilis and malaria should be considered in high-risk populations. Interventions that need to be considered in the prevention of small for gestational age fetuses units. Antiplatelet therapy should be commenced at or before 16 weeks of gestation in women at high risk of preeclampsia. There is no consistent evidence that dietary modification, progesterone, or calcium supplements prevent birth of a growth-restricted infants. Interventions to promote smoking cessation may prevent delivery of the growth-restricted fetuses. Antithrombotic therapy appears to be a promising therapy for preventing delivery of a small for gestational age fetuses or infants in high-risk women. However, there is insufficient evidence, especially concerning serious adverse effects, to recommend its use. Antithrombotic therapy, like heparin, a low molecular weight heparin. Interventions to be considered in the preterm fetuses. Women with growth-restricted fetuses between 24 and 36 weeks of gestation, where delivery is being considered, should receive a single course of antenatal corticosteroids when delivery is planned. Optimal method and frequency of fetal surveillance in small for gestational age fetuses. Umbilical artery Doppler should be the primary surveillance tool in the small for gestational age fetus. When umbilical artery Doppler flow indices are normal, it is reasonable to repeat the surveillance after every 2 weeks. More frequent Doppler surveillance may be appropriate in a severely growth-restricted fetuses. When umbilical artery Doppler flow indices are abnormal, pulsatility index or resistant index above the mean for gestation, 2 standard deviation of the mean for gestational age and delivery is not indicated, repeat surveillance twice weekly in fetuses with end diastolic velocities present and daily in fetuses with absent or reverse end diastolic frequencies. CTG should not be used as the only form of surveillance in small for gestational age fetuses. Interpretation of CT should be based on short-term fetal heart rate variation from computerized analysis. Interpretation of amniotic fluid volume should be based on single deepest vertical pockets. There are 4 quadrants If we divide the uterus into 4 quadrants and each pockets free of loops should be taken and the deepest vertical pool should be measured. The normal amniotic fluid index lies between 8 to 24 centimeter. In that term, small for gestational age fetus with normal umbilical artery Doppler and abnormal middle cerebral artery Doppler has moderate predictive value for acidosis at birth and should be used to time delivery. Ductus venous Doppler has moderate predictive value for acidemia adverse pregnancy outcome. Ductus venosus Doppler should be used for surveillance in the preterm small for gestation age fetus with abnormal umbilical artery Doppler and used to time delivery. The optimal gestation to deliver the small for gestation age fetus. In the preterm small for gestation age fetus with umbilical artery absent or reverse and diastolic volume detected prior to 32 weeks of gestation, delivery is recommended when ductus venosus Doppler becomes abnormal or uterine pulsations appear. Provided the fetus is considered viable and after completion of the steroids, even when venous Doppler is normal, delivery is recommended by 32 weeks of gestation and should be considered between 30 and 32 weeks of gestation. If middle cerebral artery Doppler is abnormal, delivery should be recommended no later than 37 weeks of gestation. In the small for gestational age fetus detected after 32 weeks of gestation with an abnormal umbilical artery Doppler, delivery should be commenced recommended at 37 weeks of gestation. If the growth restricted fetus detected after 32 weeks of gestation with normal umbilical artery Doppler, a senior obstetrician should be involved in determining the timing and mode of birth of these pregnancies. Delivery should be offered at 37 weeks of gestation. How these fetuses should be delivered. If the growth restricted fetus with umbilical artery absent and reverse diastolic flow, delivery by cesarean section is recommended. If the flow is reduced, the option of the spontaneous vaginal delivery or induction can be given to the patient. In the small for gestational age fetus with normal umbilical artery Doppler or with the abnormal umbilical artery pulsatility index, but end-diastolic velocities are present, induction of labor can be offered. But rates of emergency cesarean sections are increased and continuous fetal heart rate monitoring is recommended from the onset of uterine contractions. Early admission is recommended in women in spontaneous labor with a small for gestational fetus in order to instigate the continuous fetal heart rate monitoring. Umbilical artery Doppler waveform is the primary Doppler assessment in fetus with growth restriction. Management based on umbilical artery waveform reduced perinatal deaths by 29%. As the placental dysfunction increases, increased impedance is noted in placental vessels, and this is detected by the increase in resistance, which is called the resistance index and pulsatility index. As the uteroplacental circulation is increasingly impaired, absent end-diastolic flow in the umbilical artery is needed. Then the loss of normal function occur in 70% of the line, and this progress to reverse end-diastolic flow. These changes are rapid and unpredictable. Middle cerebral artery Doppler. Middle cerebral artery Doppler show the brain sparing effect. When there is a reduced placental flow or there is an umbilical artery flow, the flow towards the main organ increases and the brain sparing effect appears. It involves the redistribution of blood by dilatation of these cerebral vessels. It may be abnormal many weeks earlier in the early onset of fetal growth restrictions. There will be a fall in the pulsatility index or the resistance index of the middle cerebral artery. The cerebroplacental ratio, also called the cerebroplacental ratio, also called cerebroplacental ratio. Low, if this ratio is low because of the increase in the cerebral flow and decreased flow in the placenta, it indicates we have to expedite the delivery by doing cesarean section or by induction. There is another Doppler which is called the ductus venous Doppler. The ductus venous is connect the intra-abdominal portion of the umbilical vein to the left portion of the inferior vena cava just below the diaphragm. It shunts the oxygenated blood towards the brain. CTG or cardiotocograph. CTG and cardiotocograph is an assessment tool for the patient who are suffering from or who are affected with growth restrictions, but the assessment is very short term because of the short term variability cannot be performed on visual assessment. It can only be done by the computerized cardiotocograph. The biophysical profile. Biophysical profile is another tool for the assessment of the growth restricted features. It has 5 parameters: fetal tone, the gross feature movements, the breathing pattern of the features, the amniotic fluid. It also includes the CTG. It has a scoring from 0 to 1, 0 to 2, and the total scoring is 10. If the scoring is above 10, then the features is reassuring. The CTG and the biophysical profile has no role in picking or predicting the patient or the features who are facing growth retardation. Is just cause the increase in cesarean section range. This diagram is showing the wave formation on Doppler ultrasound. This is the peak which is showing the systolic, and the fall in this peak is the shows the diastolic flow. This is the normal pattern on the Doppler ultrasound. This shows the notch at the ectocycly and the start of the diastole, and this notching shows the resistance which develops in the vessels or the shows the placental insufficiency. It's abnormal. Sometimes this notching is increased so much that this diastolic portion is vanished. This is all about growth restricted features. If you have any question, send your questions. More than 5 years, if the duration of interval for longer interval is 5 years. 5 years or 60 months.